In America, yet another night that was supposed to be filled with music, laughter, and the calm of waterfront life turned into a tragedy. And this time it unfolded in the small city of Southport, North Carolina, where 3 people lost their lives and at least 8 others were injured after a gunman on a boat opened fire on innocent people enjoying their evening at the American Fish Company bar. And as details continue to emerge, what is absolutely clear is that this horrifying act is not just an isolated incident, but part of an exhausting, heartbreaking, and relentless pattern of gun violence that has come to define the reality of modern America, a reality where the places we are told are safe, the spaces that are supposed to serve as escapes from stress and struggle, bars, restaurants, schools, shopping centers, churches, movie theaters, parades, and parks, have instead been transformed into potential crime scenes. And the story of Southport only adds to a grim tally that has already surpassed 320 mass shootings in the United States this year alone, each one involving at least 4 victims, not including the shooter, a number so staggering it stops feeling like a statistic and starts feeling like a scream for help. Yet that scream is met with little more than political noise and temporary outrage before the cycle resets and another city joins the list of places forever scarred. And if we break down exactly what happened in Southport, the sequence of events is chilling, beginning just before 9:30 p.m. on Saturday when a boat quietly pulled up to the dock of the American Fish Company, a popular waterfront spot. And from that boat, a single individual opened fire directly into a crowd of people who had no way to anticipate what was coming, no chance to defend themselves, and no expectation that their night out would end in chaos, bloodshed, and panic. And in those terrifying moments, lives were stolen, others forever changed, and countless people traumatized as scenes of running, screaming, collapsing, and desperately trying to find safety played out against the backdrop of what should have been a peaceful coastal evening. And the shooter fled almost immediately, steering the boat away from the scene and disappearing into the intercoastal waterway, sparking fear not only for those already caught in the attack, but also for nearby communities like Oak Island, where people could only wonder if danger was heading in their direction. Yet law enforcement, aided by the U.S. Coast Guard, responded quickly, and within about 30 minutes, someone matching the description of the shooter was spotted at a public ramp in Oak Island loading a boat. And that individual was immediately detained, held by Oak Island police, and now awaits transfer to Southport authorities for questioning with the assistance of the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. Though at this stage, no motive has been confirmed, and officials have reassured the public that there is no ongoing threat. Yet reassurance feels hollow in a nation where reassurances come almost weekly after shootings of varying scales. And even as police do their work, even as investigators piece together the why, the how, and the who, the larger truth is unavoidable. This is the latest reminder that nowhere in America is shielded from the shadow of gun violence. Not quiet coastal towns, not busy city centers, not suburban malls, and not small town bars. And the tragedy is that this reality has become normalized, so much so that the sheer number of shootings this year, over 320 mass shootings before the end of September, is not met with national shock, but with a resigned sense of expectation, as if we have collectively accepted that this is the cost of daily life in the United States. And yet that acceptance is part of the problem. Because while lives are being destroyed, while families are being torn apart, while survivors are left to navigate trauma that will last for decades, the cycle repeats because nothing meaningful changes. And the American Fish Company shooting now forces us to confront uncomfortable but necessary questions about how many more families must mourn, how many more communities must be scarred, and how many more nights must turn into nightmares before a country that prides itself on freedom and security decides that the freedom to live without fear is more valuable than the right to wield deadly power so easily. And when you zoom out, when you step away from the individual tragedy of Southport, the broader landscape of American gun violence is staggering, a landscape where children practice active shooter drills in elementary schools, where parents second-guess whether it's safe to let their kids go to the mall or the movies, where workers in restaurants and stores quietly memorize exit routes not just for fire safety, but for survival in case someone bursts in with a weapon. And what is most devastating is that despite this reality being lived by millions every day, despite this endless carousel of violence, the response is predictable. Thoughts and prayers, brief media cycles, political grandstanding, and then silence until the next shooting fills the headlines. And while politicians argue, while lobbyists protect their profits, and while communities are left to clean up the aftermath, real people continue to pay the price. And the families of the 3 victims in Southport now join the countless others who have faced the unbearable task of grieving lives that were stolen not by illness or accident, but by violence that could have been prevented. And the 8 injured must now begin a painful recovery, both physically and emotionally, carrying scars that will serve as permanent reminders of the night their lives were ripped apart. And the survivors who escaped physically unharmed will still battle the invisible weight of trauma because no one simply walks away from a mass shooting unchanged. And this is the brutal truth that often gets lost when we talk about numbers and statistics, that behind every figure are faces, names, and stories. And the Southport shooting should not just be another tally, it should be a call to reflect on why this continues to happen. And while officials assure us there is no ongoing threat, the deeper reality is that there is always an ongoing threat, so long as mass shootings remain a regular occurrence. And the fear, the grief, and the pain ripple outward far beyond the city limits of Southport, touching every American who sees themselves in those bargoers, every parent who thinks about their children, every worker who wonders if their job could become the next scene, and every person who asks themselves if it is safe to step into a space that should be filled with joy and normalcy, but now carries the lurking question, what if? And Southport, a city near the mouth of the Cape Fear River about 30 miles south of Wilmington, will now forever carry the scars of that question, forever tied to the night when violence arrived not from the streets, not from the sidewalks, but from the water, a boat pulling up and turning a gathering into a scene of devastation. And the fact that such a method, approaching by water, attacking a bar from a boat, sounds shocking, only highlights how gun violence keeps evolving, finding new ways to invade spaces we once believed untouchable. And that is why this cannot be dismissed as simply one more tragedy, one more headline, one more story. Because what happened in Southport is part of a larger pattern that demands recognition, demands urgency, and demands that people stop treating mass shootings as an inevitable part of life, because they are not inevitable. They are the product of choices, policies, and a culture that refuses to confront reality head-on. And until that changes, until lives are valued more than excuses, America will continue to grieve, communities will continue to suffer, and families will continue to be destroyed. And the name Southport will stand alongside the long, tragic list of places marked by mass shootings, not because the city deserves it, not because the people there invited it, but because in this country, even the most ordinary night in the most ordinary place can be shattered in an instant. And the American Fish Company shooting is yet another brutal reminder of that truth. A reminder that we can't keep ignoring, a reminder that demands action, a reminder that if nothing changes, the question is not if, but when the next community will be forced to endure the same horror. And for the sake of those lost, for the sake of those grieving, and for the sake of those still living in fear, that cycle has to end.